Yo, 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 what's going on? The Terrell Hall of Fame, D-Line, TBKC, and all that sweet, beautiful, wonderful shit. All right, this video is simple, but sometimes we overcomplicate things. And someone sent me a message and they said, basically when picking a stud, what do you go after, and how do you decide between, which one of the studs in this blood and all these good questions. So really what it boiled down to is this person has seen a certain stud, and I've had this happen quite a bit with some of my studs, and they were trying to pick between the stud sons, of which look they like the most and which one they should go with. And immediately I told them that was one of the biggest mistakes. And it's always one of the biggest mistakes, because, and I won't say always, because sometimes a stud will produce a stud that can produce. But so many times we fall in love with a production, right? And we like, man, he off the charts. I want him. I want him. I want him. And you go to the son to get the dog. When in reality, it is the stud's father who actually produced him, his father and his mother. So you sort of going a little bit backwards, and it's not a bad thing to go and get his blood, but what do who's more valuable, the painting or the artist? And that's sort of where you get down to. I think if you see a certain dog that you really have fallen in love with, and this is what you're going after, go to his daddy. His daddy made him, find a bitch that lines up well with his mama, and use his dad, and you're going to have a high probability of producing something like him. That's not to say that all studs don't produce themselves, can't produce themselves or produce better. But the truth of the matter is that throughout my time of finding different studs, the one thing that I've always tried to do is to find a stud that has proven that he can produce, has proven that he can produce a certain look, that has proven that he can produce what I'm looking for. And then at that point I try to exaggerate it or manipulate it to a point to getting what I want out of it. After a few years now of seeing what Mandela can do, what I do with him is similar to what I do with Denzel, even though Denzel is at the end of his career here. You see from the productions what these dogs have produced, and Mandela's pretty consistent in what he produces. And then I start to read the pedigrees of the bitches and the results of those bitches. The results of those litters from those bitches. And this starts to give me a stronger blueprint as to how to go about breeding him, what dogs he works best with, what dogs he might not work quite as well with, and what are the features to expect from certain blood combinations. And of course you go to the phenotype, and the abundance of mass or the lacking of mass that the female might have, any structural flaws that the female might have, and you have to add all these different things in. When it boils down to it is, though, if you have something that's in a desired look or desired trait, I'm here to tell you that honestly, the dog who has produced those traits is a better option than the dog who has those traits. Because many people will tell you a lot of these studs who are, phenomenal in looks, and they have everything that you may want as far as your stud and as far as your program, and you're like, that's why I'm using him. He's got it all, phenotype. Genetically, they don't push it sometimes, as we look around the American bully world, and like I say, it could be many different things nowadays with the way these guys, cheat the game a lot. But think about how many big name studs you've seen, and you see, these giant names, and he's going to be great, and he's going to do this, and he's going to do that. And as you look at it, you start to notice that their productions doesn't measure up to their looks. And now, like I say, that could be many different things. Sometimes you just see, dogs that look like King Kong but produce like Jane, or Tarzan, look like Tarzan, produce like Jane, excuse me. But the key is finding, that's why they say proven producer, proven producer. This is a must, because the reason why they're proven is they're going to give you dogs over and over and over again. That's why especially with my young studs, and I rarely ever have, a bunch of studs. I'll have more now, but that's why I don't really push them as far as studs in their early days, like especially that first year, because I'm doing experimental breedings with them to see how they mesh with bloods that probably their dad has messed with, or something that came from their grandfather on their mom's side, or the mom. And then as I get a good game plan, for instance, Denzel, for whatever reason, when you doubled up on Denzel, secondary, which means, taking his kids, two of his half brother, half sister, and breeding them together, the dogs actually got bullier. They didn't lose anything. But one thing that came through is a looser skin gene. Now, what I did notice is when you take this on a third level, and you take grandkids, and you take those grandkids and possibly a grandkid running back to one of his kids, that gene, the loose gene didn't come in, but they still increased in mass over what the mass that he is. Now with Denzel, a dog like, say, Nemesis, when Denzel was hit to Nemesis blood, the dogs carried a lot more size. But at the same time, when I say size, I don't necessarily mean height. They were a lot more mass driven, wider, very, very big bone. He had big bone, he has big bone. But, back in the day, it seemed like his bone was giant. As they get older, everything sort of gets smaller, weaker, poor dude. But, that was something that worked. Now, I did other breedings where it just didn't turn out well. And what I mean by well is, one breeding in particular, you had 3 dogs with 3 different issues in one breeding. One of them had a very, very bad skin. The other one, I think, was a kink tail. And the other one was a high rear. And this was all in the same litter. This was some blood that wasn't edge blood. It was more of a, older, I guess you would call it. It was just all mixed up blood. It was very clean blood too, but for whatever reason it didn't mesh with Denzel. And we tried it a second time from a different variation, and something similar happened to where the dogs were not the best structured dogs. Everything was all slight. It was better than the first time, but it just didn't work out, man. And that was more of a scatterbred. Excuse me, y'all. I don't know why I'm so damn tired today, but excuse me, but that didn't work out for me. Now there are combinations, and I would recommend this to everybody, that when you find, and it's basically just studying, like if you like a certain dog and some type of blood that you don't have, you might also want to lean towards the blood combination that made them and be very precise in there. As if you don't hit a home run on getting exactly what you want with that combination, there's a higher chance that you'll be in the ballpark. And as you go into your secondary and third level breedings, you can continue to add to whatever your plan was to make that certain type of dog. You don't want to go totally outside of the limits and end up with something terrible. So with all that being said, proven producer is going to be the key. Like I said, you have lookers, you have pretty dogs that don't always come to the table and give you exactly what you want as a breeder. It's a must that you go ahead and pick the dogs that are going to give you the best chance to push your kennel forward and to push your program forward, if that's what you're in it for. And sometimes that's not big names. As we look throughout the history of this breed, we've seen plenty of very, very big name dogs that are supposed to be the greatest of this, the greatest of that, the greatest of this, the greatest of that. And when you look at them after they're dead and gone, they don't leave very much to help the bully world or the bully game at all. They were just big time names that carried a lot of weight. Whereas if you run the program, you don't want big names, you want big game, And sometimes that would include, if you're on a budget, you want to find, Littermates to your favorite studs. Sometimes can help you out. Sometimes you get those studs and it's, $10,000 to use that stud. And some people have their Littermates, exact same blood, exact same litter. And it might be worth it for you to give them, $1,000 or a couple $1,000, or a lot less than whatever the big name stud is asking for, to see if it was truly the blood and match that up with your dog. There's plenty of ways to get quality without overspending. There's plenty of ways to get, you know, good quality without, you know, doing all the different things. But like that scenario I told you about with Littermates, you know, that's if you can't get to the father himself. You know, your studs have to be very, very well planned out. And even as you buy a litter, your brood, not brood stock, but your foundation female, you know, you want that female to be very, very much everything that you want, you know, because this is your foundation. You might breed this bitch 3 or 4 times and have, you know, 4 to 10 puppies off this one bitch, you know, which I've seen people do that, you know, with the Razor's Edge. If you look back, you know, you had Inner Rage, you know, you had Paddington, you had a small collection of bitches that basically made the whole Razor's Edge family, and they were definitely, you know, true foundation. But the one thing I do want to keep on reminding y'all is go to what's proven. You know, we have too many people who experiment in everything that they do here, and really it's not about reinventing the wheel. Sometimes, you know, you just gotta learn how to drive with that baby. and that's what I, you know, and I really recommend that, because there are too many changes in this. You know, the stud father, he's a proven producer. You're gambling with the son. You're gambling big time with the son, you know. And it's not to say he can't produce, but you know his daddy produces. If anything, you're gonna go that way. Go towards the man who's already made it happen. I know this was a whole lot and I was bouncing around everywhere, but I think y'all gonna get the point of what I'm saying, man. Proven producers, proven blood, you know, stick to a script. Stop trying to reinvent the whole entire breed with everything you do. Until next time, much love. Peace.